All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to explore some really profound wisdom from the art of living, and we're going to tackle a huge question. How do you actually build an inner self that's so strong, so refined, that it can handle pretty much anything life decides to throw your way? Let's figure it out.
Wow, what a way to start. This quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson really just hits you, doesn't it? It perfectly sets up our theme. I mean, think about that. This isn't about ignoring the world's problems, it's about building an inner reality so powerful that you can create your own heaven, even if you're standing in hell. But how is that even possible? Well, the source material gives us this absolutely brilliant metaphor. Think about your character, your inner goodness, as the suspension on a car. You know how a car with great suspension just glides over potholes and bumps? The passengers barely even feel it. Well, it's the same idea. A person with a refined character can absorb all the shocks of life, all the negativity, the challenges, without losing their inner balance. So let's really dig into this idea of heaven and hell. How does this inner resilience, this quality the text calls sajjanata, or goodness, how does it actually work in the real world?
It has this kind of dual power, which is fascinating. First, it can actually pacify wickedness. The source says it's like putting water on a spark. It just neutralizes that external negativity before it can even start a fire. But second, and this is probably the most crucial part, it gives you the strength to endure hardship. Because look, some challenges are just unavoidable. This inner refinement lets you face them with grace, so you bend but you don't break.
Now, building this kind of strength isn't some quick hack. It's not a simple trick. It actually takes a conscious, dedicated effort to develop and balance two fundamental sides of our personality.
And this conscious effort has a name, Jeevan Sadhana. You can think of it as your life practice. It's the art of actively working on both your inner world and your outer actions, all the time. It's not about choosing one or the other. It's about getting them to work together in harmony.
And this chart lays it out so clearly. On the left, you've got Sanskriti, your inner culture. This is your inner game. Refining your qualities, your nature, finding that inner peace. Then on the right, you have Sabhyata, your outer civilization. This is your external game, how you act in society, your sense of duty, your reputation. True lasting development, well, it requires both. You can't have real inner peace if your outer life is a total mess, right? And a great reputation feels pretty empty if you're not right on the inside.
Okay, so let's zoom in on that internal world for a second. What's it actually made of? According to this wisdom, it's built on three pillars: our qualities, our actions, and our fundamental nature.
And here's the absolute game changer. Your personality is not fixed. It's not set in stone. It is actively built from this mix of your qualities, or guna, your actions, karma, and your core nature, swabhava. And you know what that means? It means you are the architect. You have the power to shape who you become.
So how do you actually do it? Well, it's this incredibly powerful three-step process. First, you pick a quality you want to embody, say honesty, and you consciously practice it, even when it's tough. Then, over time, that practice becomes a habit. It just gets easier, more automatic. And finally, that habit gets so ingrained it becomes part of your very nature. It's no longer just something you do, it becomes who you are.
And the result of all that practice? You become so resilient that, just like the quote says, you can use the very obstacles in your path as stepping stones to climb even higher.
Okay, so we've touched on our inner world. Now let's shift gears to our outer actions, and specifically our work. This brings us to a really powerful concept called karma yoga, and it's all about completely transforming your work with your attitude. Just think about this for a second. I'm sure you've seen it. Two people can have the exact same job. For one person, it's a miserable chore. For the other, it's a source of joy and fulfillment. What's the difference? It's not the work, it's their inner perspective.
There's a great story that just makes this crystal clear. Picture three laborers all working on the same temple. You ask the first guy what he's doing. He sighs and says, I'm hauling rocks to feed my family. For him, it's a burden filled with stress. You ask the second guy, he says, I'm a bricklayer. I'm earning a living. He sees it as a job, and he feels a decent sense of contentment. But then you ask the third laborer, and he looks up with a smile and says, I am building a house for God. He sees his work as part of something bigger, something noble. And his experience? It's one of pride and pure joy. Same work, completely different reality.
And that right there, that third laborer, that is the essence of karma yoga. It's the practice of treating your work, whatever it is, as an act of worship. It's about doing it with your full attention, your full sense of responsibility. And when you do that, even the most boring task can become fulfilling.
Of course, this isn't always easy. We all know that.
and the text points out two big obstacles that get in our way. The first one is alasya, which is basically physical laziness, that feeling of just not wanting to move. The second is pramad, and this one's more subtle. It's mental carelessness, when you're physically there, but your mind is a million miles away.
So, we've covered our inner world and our outer actions, but how do we put it all together? How do we turn this into a practical system we can use every day? Well, the source gives us a complete 4-step framework for this life practice.
And to make this framework super intuitive, just think of self-improvement like farming. A good farmer doesn't just toss some seeds and hope for the best, right? There's a process. Every single step is essential if you want a great harvest.
So here are the 4 steps. Step 1 is self-introspection. This is like tilling the soil. You have to look inside and clear out all the weeds and rocks, all those negative habits. Step 2 is self-correction. This is like sowing the good seeds. You actively replace the bad habits with good ones. Step 3 is self-construction. That's like tending the crop, watering it every day through practice. And finally, step 4 is self-development, the best part. That's the harvest, reaping the rewards of all your hard work and sharing it with the world.
Now, listen up, because this is probably the most important part of the whole process. These are not 4 separate stages you do one after another. You have to practice all 4 of them at the same time every single day. Think about it. You don't just eat carbs one week and protein the next, right? You eat a balanced meal. It's the same thing here. You practice all 4 steps together.
And this leads us to such a powerful conclusion. The great people we look up to, the ones who seem almost superhuman, they didn't just show up that way. They were forged. Day by day, they were built through this exact same process of dedicated practice. The potential for that kind of greatness isn't reserved for a chosen few. It's available to anyone willing to do the work.
So as we wrap up, let's bring it all back to you. Forget the big abstract theories for a minute. Looking at your own life right here, right now, what is the very next step you can take in your own Jeevan Sadhana, your own life's practice? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive.